Hey, what's up everybody? This is Taran from DevSkills. Welcome to this channel. Microservices are all the rage these days, right? Everyone wants to build these scalable, flexible systems. But the truth is, microservices can be a double-edged sword. They can unlock incredible scale, speed, and flexibility, or they can turn into a distributed nightmare if you're not careful. In this video, we'll look at the 5 most common mistakes developers make when building microservices and how you can avoid them. If you're developing Java-based microservices using Spring Boot and Spring Cloud, please ensure you watch until the end. However, concepts are easily transferable to other frameworks and programming languages. So, let's dive in. Alright, the first and probably the most common mistake I see developers make is treating their microservices like mini-monoliths. They get all excited about this new architecture, but then they go and copy-paste the same old monolithic thinking into each service. They create these massive services with tons of responsibilities, all tightly coupled together. They share databases, they share schemas, and suddenly you've got this tangled web of dependencies. The whole point of microservices is to break down your application into small independent units. Each service should have a single, well-defined responsibility, and it should own its data. Think of it like this. Each microservice is its own little kingdom, with its own rules and its own resources. To avoid this mistake, you need to start thinking about bounded contexts. This is a concept from domain-driven design, and it basically means identifying the natural boundaries within your application. Each bounded context represents a distinct area of your business logic, and it should be implemented by a separate microservice. Make sure that your services communicate with each other in a loosely coupled way. This means using things like API contracts or event-driven communication. So, ditch the monolithic thinking and embrace the true spirit of microservices. Alright, let's talk about data. When you move from a monolithic architecture to microservices, you're also moving from a world of ACID transactions to a world of eventual consistency, and this is where a lot of developers trip up. In a monolith, it's easy to maintain data consistency. You've got everything in one database, you can wrap your transactions in a nice little ACID bubble, and you're good to go. But in a distributed system, things aren't so simple. When you've got data spread across multiple services, you need to start thinking about things like eventual consistency, failure scenarios, and data synchronization. Ignoring these challenges is a recipe for disaster. You'll end up with data inconsistencies, race conditions, and you might even find yourself stuck in rollback hell. So, how do you avoid this mistake? Embrace the concepts of base, basically available, soft state, eventually consistent. This means accepting that your data might not always be perfectly consistent, but it will eventually converge to a consistent state. Learn about different patterns for managing distributed transactions. Things like Saga patterns, the try, confirm, cancel (TCC) model, and event sourcing can help you maintain data consistency in a microservices environment. For critical flows where you absolutely need strong consistency, you can use XA transactions, but do so cautiously. XA transactions can introduce complexity and performance overhead, so they should be used sparingly. Distributed data management is a complex topic, but it's essential for building robust and reliable microservices. Mistake number 3. Overengineering too early. Microservices are cool. They come with all these fancy tools and technologies. But here's the thing, you don't need to use all of them right away. Over-engineering your microservices architecture from the get-go is a surefire way to shoot yourself in the foot. Developers get caught up in the hype, and they start throwing everything but the kitchen sink at their projects. They add Kafka, service mesh, distributed tracing, and a dozen other tools before they even have a single working microservice. The problem is, all this complexity comes with a cost. It slows down development, makes your system harder to understand and maintain, and troubleshooting becomes a nightmare. Plus, you might not even need all that fancy stuff in the beginning. So, what's the alternative? Start simple. Instead of jumping headfirst into microservices, consider starting with a modular monolith. This means breaking down your application into modules, but keeping everything within a single deployment unit. This approach allows you to focus on getting your core functionality right without getting bogged down in distributed systems complexities. It gives you a chance to identify the true boundaries within your application. You can see which modules are talking to each other the most, where the bottlenecks are, and that'll give you a much better idea of how to split your monolith into microservices later on. Remember, Microservices are a journey, not a destination. Start small, iterate, and evolve your architecture as your needs grow. Mistake number 4. Poor observability and failure handling. In a distributed system, things are going to fail. It's not if, but when. Many developers don't adequately prepare for these failures, and that's when things can go really wrong. Imagine, you've got this complex microservices architecture, but you don't have centralized logging, tracing, or metrics in place. One of your services starts throwing errors, and suddenly you're in the dark. You have no idea what's going on, where the problem originated, or how to fix it. Without proper failure handling mechanisms like retries, circuit breakers, and timeouts, a single failing service can trigger a cascade of failures, taking down your entire application. So, how do you avoid this fate? Prioritize observability. This means having a centralized logging system where you can aggregate logs from all your services. Tools like the Elk Stack, Elasticsearch, Logstash, Kibana, or Splunk can be incredibly helpful here. Implement distributed tracing. This allows you to follow requests as they flow through your system, giving you a clear picture of what's happening and where things are going wrong. Spring Cloud. Sleuth and Zipkin are great tools for this. Don't forget about metrics. Monitor key performance indicators like request latency, error rates, and resource utilization. Prometheus and Grafana are popular choices for collecting and visualizing metrics. Build resilience into your services. Use libraries like Resilience4j or Spring Retry to implement retries, circuit breakers, and timeouts. In the world of microservices, failure is not an option, it's a guarantee. So be prepared. Mistake number 5. Not thinking about the developer experience. We often talk about microservices from a technical perspective, scalability, resilience, all that good stuff. But we sometimes forget about the most important factor, the developers who actually build and maintain these systems. If your microservices architecture makes life harder for your developers, you're doing it wrong. I've seen teams struggle with overly complex development environments, painful CI/CD pipelines, and slow feedback loops, and let me tell you, it's a recipe for frustration, burnout, and ultimately, slower development. Imagine this. A new developer joins your team and spends weeks just trying to set up a local development environment that can run all the services. Or, a simple code change takes hours to deploy and test because of a convoluted CI/CD pipeline. So, how do you create a developer-friendly microservices experience? Focus on providing a smooth and easy-to-set-up local development environment. Tools like Docker Compose or test containers can be lifesavers here, allowing developers to spin up a local instance of the entire system with just a few commands. Streamline your CI/CD pipeline. Aim for fast build times, automated testing, and seamless deployments. Happy developers write better code, and better code leads to a better product. Invest in their experience, and everyone wins. I have been building microservices that scale and survive for more than a decade now. So there you have it, the 5 most common microservices mistakes and how to avoid them. We talked about treating microservices like mini-monoliths, ignoring distributed data management, over-engineering too early, neglecting observability and failure handling, and overlooking the developer experience. Microservices are powerful, but only if designed with care. Avoid these pitfalls and you'll build systems that scale, survive, and keep your developers happy. Building successful microservices isn't just about using the right technologies. It's about adopting the right mindset, understanding the trade-offs, and focusing on the things that matter. If you want to dive deeper into these topics, get practical code examples, and see real-world architecture diagrams, check out my book, Practical Microservices Architecture Patterns. And hey, if this video helped you, give it a like and share it with your dev team. Drop your own experiences in the comments. I'd love to feature a few in future videos.